that we'll be walking through. Pretty much each team is represented today from across the board, even some of our friends in healthcare. So really appreciate you all jumping in and showing us what you're working on as it relates to CIC and some of the IMR work that you all are going forward with. So we have the agenda that's inside of the meeting invite. I'm just going to follow that and make sure that we stay on track, stay on time with just that specific order there. So first one up, Mr. Talixon, best background so far that I've seen. So thanks for joining us from what looks like the deep Ozarks or wherever you could possibly be located. So thank you, and the floor is yours, my friend.
It's the woods of rural Ohio. It's not. I wish it was the Ozarks. That would be nice. All right, so thank you everyone for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, maybe even some good evenings. I'm not sure if anybody's joining us from way far east, but thank you for making the time for this. The demo that I'm going to walk through today, if you notice, the agenda is quite IDP heavy. I love that. What we're going to walk through today is a solution that will soon be leveraged by many of the teams in many of their demos. So this is not so much a solution-focused demo or even uniquely a customer-focused demo, but this is showing some capabilities of IDP and OnBase working together so that some of the moving parts that we're dancing around in demos today come together more fluently. There will be productized components that we will leverage in the future to help tie all these systems together. But right now, as sales engineers, we need a deep toolbox full of tools that is flexible and available to us when we need it. So we put together some scripting and some workflow pieces to help hopefully more elegantly tie together OnBase and IDP. We've also done this for Perceptive, and then we're going to get going on Nuxio and Alfresco coming soon once we sort of get all the kinks worked out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump into this. Tell me if you are seeing what looks to be a good old OnBase, an OnBase screen.
You are good to go.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this here is OnBase capture interface. And so what I'm going to do is bring in some documents into an OnBase system, but not documents that I'm going to go ahead and identify or extract information from, type in keywords. I'm just going to sweep in a directory full of documents, and I'll sort of do that as I'm talking. These documents are coming in as a doc type we defined as just a mailroom incoming document. So really no knowledge about what these are. So these documents could come into the OnBase system or any of our repositories from any of the ingestion methods we have. Could be Outlook integration, could be downloaded through a web page, API integration. What I'm using here is scanning interface. They could be pre-existing documents inside of an OnBase system that we're looking to further classify and extract information from. So you'll see I've got a couple of different types of documents in here. A claim document. If I thumb down through a few of these, you might see a check document in here. And while I'm talking here, what's actually happened is these documents were jumped into a OnBase workflow. All of these incoming documents, they were sent up there. You can see the time and date stamps on here, 10:04, kind of when I swept these in. And what's happening is they're making a round trip up to CIC and back, and we are extracting information from those documents and classifying them. And I'll go ahead and bring up this one here. This is a really good example of the capabilities of IDP in that we're extracting name, policy number, and accident date from this document. Again, for demo purposes, we're just pulling a few keywords. For a solution-focused demo, we can bring a lot more information off this document, but we are bringing a combination of handwriting, machine print, and over here is where that accident date is. And if you look at it here, these documents are European documents, so they've got how the dates written and how the most of the world writes their dates, which is day, month, year, and we are converting that to a US-based OnBase system where it's month, date, year. And again, we're leveraging IDP to do that that validation of that or verification of that information on the back end. So I'll go ahead and bring up a different document here, and we'll just sort of refresh this. And I've got some remittance documents in, and these are for those of you that are familiar with brainware may know these documents well. They've been around for an awful long time, almost 20 years now. And in this case, what we're lifting off of here is just the payee, the check number, and the amount. And these documents, whereas the claim documents were all rather similar in their layout, these remittance documents vary. So we're not using things like, geographic information to pull the keywords off the documents or anything like that. The date, the amount, the payee will shift around in this document, and we're using prompt-based AI extraction to pull that information off there. So I'll go ahead and show those two.
Hey, Tim, quick question for you. For any of the
Yes, sir.
financial services folks on the call, are you extracting or is IDP able to extract any of that MICR line data off of the check, or is that not a capability that's available just yet?
Haven't really tried to pull that off yet. I'm not sure if the LLMs that we're leveraging, I'll do that as a quick test though and let you know. We may be able to pull that off just using OCR, but as you know, in real check processing, there are capabilities that are necessary beyond just reading the information, such as comparing the dollar amounts that are written out on that document and making sure that they are the same, and also doing things like ensuring that that MICR is actually magnetic ink that's on that document at times when we're scanning actual real checks. So we may be able to pull more information off this document with the capabilities of IDP. I just hedged the bet on true check processing, right? As we know that's a big step there. So
Thank you.
so, yep, you got it. That's really what I wanted to cover down on with IDP. You're going to see some other IDP demos coming up. We've got a lot of work to do to extend this integration to do things like extracting table information. So for those solutions that leverage invoices, transcripts, or other table-based information on documents, we'll be looking to pull that information up programmatically and share it with an on-base system, push it back in. Multi-instance keyword groups, those kinds of things inside the on-base system, as well as leverage the separation capabilities of IDP. And the use case there would be pulling in a large packet of information, think a mortgage document or a loan file, or someone's HR file that was scanned in as one single large PDF. We want to be able to send those documents up to IDP and then separate them into individual documents, of course, classify them and then extract information as necessary. Should we need to have a human in the loop review those documents, we can either do that with the IDP screens, if that works for the solution, or we can even bring those back into the on-base solution and keep the users in the interface that they're already familiar and comfortable with. We can design solutions either way. So Larry, that's my quick on-base IDP integration demo.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate that. IDP has definitely come a long way very fast, and it is a formidable competitor in the space already. So I'm looking forward to see what our engineering and product teams continue to enhance and develop, and certainly what the rest of the teams here are going to show. So thank you very much. Up next, looks like we have Don Tyler that's going to be talking about Jade, and I'll let him go through what exactly that is and how it is very important for all of us to understand what him and his team have been working on.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Good day, all. So this is less of a sales type demo, but more of a tool that we have developed here. Specifically, Jeff Pinsa had started this process as a little bit of a learning tool more than anything, but trying to think ahead of what the needs of SEs might be and getting them into a position where they can easily stand up, manage environments that are able to connect to anything CIC related. So it's if anybody remembers the AID project that was a couple of years ago, in essence allowing folks to stand up alfresco environments easily. This is sort of that, except for it's using CIC and there's some additional features to it. So I won't go too far into some of the config of it, but the whole purpose is to try to get you guys into a better spot so that you can more easily learn, demo anything that's related to CIC. All this really is an AWS management tool. And if I just take a quick peek over here at the config of this, if I can get out of there, I won't go too far into this, but you can see it's just in essence it's doing a lot of calling of Lambda scripts. So a lot of these were Lambda scripts that we had created prior to this, just to help us manage costs and security and things like that. But some of this is really just using CIC as a platform to automate, some of those tasks, which is really nice. Interface obviously isn't all that great yet, but all tasks in general are going to start off the same way. Anybody who's familiar with this so far, you're going to start off a process, start off with Jade, enter in your Highland email address. And it's important here to put in your Highland email address. This particular CIC tenant is one that is, we stood up specifically for try and TSC work. So that's where this one lives. So I know everybody already has, 5, 10 different CIC accounts, but hey, what's one more, right? So all processes start off the same. We're going to kick this off, and realizing that some of this can take some time, it will ultimately come back and you'll see your task. Usually that happens pretty quickly. But once you've got that process kicked off and started, you'll see that email address in here. If you've mistyped it or whatever that is, you can always cancel that. But the whole goal of this is really just to do a variety of different things. Just to start off with, I'll cover the creation of an instance. So what this will do, and this is regionalized, which is nice too. This wasn't part of what AID used to be able to do. So especially for our folks in EMEA and elsewhere, APAC, it's nice that these are, you're now able to spin these environments up and also have them be regionalized, which is a variety of different advantages to that. So I'll stick with North Virginia. What this is in essence going to do is, and this is, for right now, this is going to be specific to the on-base side of it. Mr. Jose is kind of laying the groundworks for doing some of the same with Alfresco, and then we'll kind of reevaluate this as we go along if there's any need to do that for some of the other panel products. So I've got my region here. I'm just going to complete that task. Ultimately, that will eventually come up, and I'm creating an instance, and what this is going to end up doing is create the EC2 instance in AWS. In this case, you'll see a variety of different AMIs that are out there. These are just images that you can choose from. We have some out here, don't mind this. We have some out here that aren't necessarily intended to be used for CIC, but they've been out there anyway. We put them out there for a release. But for this case, I want to focus on, I want to build something, I want to learn something, I want to do something with CIC specifically, and then tie that in with my on-base environment in this case. So I'm just going to pick this guy here. This is the Highland CIC instance. I'm going to do demo fest test. Fill this out. Oops. And this particular one, if you have opportunities, you can put that in, but all of this is going to, in essence, kick off another task that will, on the back end of it, it's going to use that AMI image that we used above that has on-base on it, already pre-installed, the HTTP basically. It's going to create the instance, it's going to create the load balancers, everything that's needed to be able to access this on-base environment externally. So I'll complete that. Creation process itself takes a little bit because there are some trips. If you think about everything that might be needed to have an endpoint that's open to CIC, SSL certificates, JSON files, config files, thumbprints, all that stuff, it takes care of all of those things. It is a bit of a slow process though, so be patient with some of that. I won't show you the rest of that piece of it, but just kind of going through some of the other things that you can do with this. I've already got some processes started here. In this particular case, I'm managing my instance and I'm able to start, stop, do a variety of different things that we haven't always been able to do before. If you're done with it, you can archive it, terminate it, which is a good thing. If you don't need it, let's not pay the costs. Manage other tags or specific tags that you might need to extend. One thing that I think is kind of new and kind of nice as well is just the ability to take a snapshot of that. So if you're building a demo, you do a demo and you kind of need to roll that back to another point in time, you could do that through this interface by taking a snapshot and reverting it. Another thing that's new to this as well is just the concept of a collaborator. If I had a resource that was out in AWS and I was the quote unquote owner of that, then through the AID application, the older application, there really wasn't a way of somebody else that maybe I'm collaborating with. Maybe I'm working with Chris Corey, since I'm looking at him, and we're working on this together. He can't manage my instance without having direct access to AWS. Some do, not a big deal. Some don't. So I can add him as a collaborator, and then he can, in essence, manage it also. If I'm not around, he can start it, stop it, do all of those things too. So that's a bit of a new process. I will kind of go through this. I think, hopefully it didn't time out here. If I just do a refresh. Here's my instance that I want to do stuff with. So in this case, I'm just going to, I've already selected that in a prior task. I'm just going to start that guy. I'm going to complete it. So I'll let that marinate a little bit. Other things that you can do while that's going, other thing you can do is whitelist. It's important, obviously, from a security perspective, that we have things locked down, and not just anybody can get an RDP into it. So it's basically, it's straightforward. You have to have your whitelist. You have to have your IP address, your external IP address, whitelisted before you can access this, at least via RDP. So pretty straightforward. Put in your address, or your IP address, your external one, not one that you're on the Highland network, or on a VPN or home network, whatever. So let's see, 6753009.11, whatever. So in essence, this will also run Lambda scripts to then allow us to access that environment that we just created through that creation process. So I'll let that marinate. Let's see how this guy's going. If I look back at this now and restart it, you'll see that it's now running, which is nice. So, I can do the same thing. I can start it, stop it, do all of those things. So it's really just a management tool for AWS environments. And again, right now, this is just on base, but open to feedback if anybody has any other needs, if there's some other way that we can leverage this and use this, and it would make your lives easier. That's what the goal of this is. Have gotten a little bit of feedback. There's been some folks that have been poking at this a little bit, so there still may be some issues. But yeah, if you need access, there's a whole page out here, of course, on, let's see, there it is, on documentation of this. So we'll make sure everybody has this, but if you need access, you want access, all of that stuff is out here. Just let us know. We'll create an account for you in this try environment. One thing I will call out too, what this is not intended to be used for POCs, and you'll see some information out here on this too, if that's of interest. It's not set up to be any kind of customer data, customer access, partner access, none of that. It's strictly for SE purposes, to be able to easily get an environment in AWS and have it be exposed to CIC so that you can do all kinds of fun things.
Got two really quick questions, Don.
Yeah.
Is this going to replace VRA for spinning up on-base instances?
I wouldn't say replace. Obviously, with some of the Broadcom stuff and just the vSphere in general, I know IS is really taking a hard look at how we use VRA in particular, and anything vSphere. Obviously, the costs have gone up a lot, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily going to replace it. There are still sort of soft costs that are associated with vSphere. So I would still personally use ARIA if you can, because there are separate costs and some other considerations that are for this. But the downside of that is anything that's in ARIA isn't exposed externally typically, so that you can make you can't do much with it from a CIC perspective, at least as far as I know. So if you need something to tie in something with CIC, that's what the purpose really is of some of this. But yeah,
Gotcha.
You could use it.
And then last thing, the security groups. I noticed, the whitelist of IP. I'm guessing the security for these are going to be pretty locked down on the AWS side.
They are, yeah. We're actually mimicking what we did for the AID project. So there are some default ports that the Alfresco folks use quite a bit. So there are security groups that kind of have some of those ports open by default. And then we're just updating some of those with your specific IP address, to allow you to RDP into it. I say that this is only on base in terms of creating them, but honestly, any environment or any EC2 instance that you're an owner of, whether it's an Alfresco instance or not, depending upon where that instance lives, you could use the same thing to be able to start and stop some of that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Don.
Hey,
Welcome.
Don, real quick, to get onto Morrison's point as well. So there's no way to use VRA instances and tie it into CIC, because I mean,
Not
we're building a lot of pretty cool solutions in there, and some that are already built. Right, that it would be great to piggyback CIC augmentation. You know, whether it's capture portion or automate or whatever the case may be, and incorporate that front end piece of CIC into a current existing solution.
Yeah, all of that has to go through IS at this point. You know, and frankly, I haven't pushed on it much in terms of, hey, we need to have external access. I don't even know if that's something that they would do, but it is more so just, it would just be, I say just, I don't think it would ever happen, but it would in essence be working with IS to allow whatever ports are necessary to be open so that VRA can access those things.
All right, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, but if you do have an environment that's somewhere now, we can always stuff that up into AWS and create your own little personalized AMI if you wanted to. That's a thing. Any AMI that is quote unquote public, or is, you know, maybe you've got your own personalized one that you've created, as long as it meets the criteria, like I'm the owner of this, or it's a public one. I say public meaning just Highlanders, but you could also have kind of your own, your other owned AMIs would show up out here as well.
Right.
So if you want something stuffed up into AWS, we can definitely do that.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Welcome. That's all I've got. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Don. You know, I put in the chat, but it can't be understated how much, you know, it really can't be shared enough how much you and your team have done over the last, you know, 18 to 24 months and making sure that we have all the right tools and can easily spin up environments and work to make sure that we have access to everything we need. So thank you for that. And, you know, this being the next evolution and putting this in front of CIC, just making it even easier for, you know, the teams to get in and start accessing demo environments and working. So thank you for this and all the work that your team has done.
Yep. And all the props go to Jeff on this. He's the one who created this. But yeah, and anything else along that same sentiment, Larry, if we're trying to be proactive about subscriptions and the needs of what people will need, you know, maybe not today, but a month from now. So if there's anything else that you guys are foreseeing that you're going to need that we don't have today, please let me know and I'll kind of help navigate those waters and get some of that done so that we're ready as soon as possible.
Certainly. And then also plug your team for the fact that your documentation of all the work that you're doing and all of the solutions that you put together is out on Confluence. And you know, I encourage anyone to go out and take a look at that. If you have any questions about how things function within our demo environments or anything that Don's team is working on, all of that is extremely well laid out inside of Confluence. So take a peek at it if you have some time.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Perfect. All right. Next up, we have Chet and Abby, and I'm just going to read this last sentence in the agenda. It's a romantic dance of both Nuxio and KE that is enough to bring tears to your eyes. So, Chet, you set a very tall, very tall order for yourself here. So, I'd love to see some tears come out of myself here. So, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, I'll get started with this. So, today we're going to be talking about and going over knowledge enrichment, really with the goal to give you more information on knowledge enrichment, and specifically the context enrichment piece, which enhances data by linking it with relevant contextual information, improving searchability, AI processing, and decision making.
Hey, Abby, can I just jump in quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to make sure that the presentations, that you guys can see the presentation.
Yep.
Okay,
just
perfect. So you just tell me when to
Perfect. So today we really hope to give you a quality overview of the concepts of this piece of knowledge enrichment, so you can leave today with a better understanding of what it is and how it works. So I'm going to start with some slides to cover what it is, and then I'll pass it over to Chet so we can see it in action in a Nuxio environment. So there are two components to knowledge enrichment, the context enrichment API and the data curation API. Today, we're going to be focused on the context enrichment API. And as of today, the context enrichment piece provides several capabilities utilizing available actions. So these actions include image classification, which categorizes an image into one or more predefined classes. Image description, this action analyzes an image and generates a textual description of its contents. Embeddings for image and text. So for images, image embeddings convert visual information into high dimensional vector representations. image metadata, which creates structured metadata about the image based on its contents, and any provided example metadata. Entity recognition, which identifies specific entities visible in image, like people, organizations, locations, etc., and text summarization, which condenses long documents into brief summaries that capture key information. Next slide. So knowledge enrichment, it's not just object recognition, it's designed to understand the broader theme and context of the image. So we create embeddings of the image and use that to generate metadata. Next slide. So one thing we're demonstrating today with context enrichment is embeddings. So we hope to give everyone a better understanding of how they work in the process. So if you remember one thing about today, it's how valuable embeddings can be and what we can do with embeddings. So an embedding is a numerical representation of complex data like text, images, or audio in the form of a vector, which is a list of numbers. The terms embeddings and vector are often used interchangeably, so just keep that in mind. So for images, embeddings capture the important features or patterns of an image in a way that a computer can understand and compare. So you can think of it like turning a photo into a fingerprint made of numbers. Next slide. So an example of this being used that you may be familiar with is Spotify playing songs that it thinks you'll like. It's not basing this off of an image or words, but rather the vibes of the music, the embeddings to surface similar items. And it's not only Spotify that does this. If we think about shopping online, being recommended similar items based off of what's in your shopping cart, it's using embeddings to find those related or similar items in that case as well. And again, it's not based on pictures. Any media can be converted to embeddings. So that's really the power of embeddings. In another case, we could do embeddings for user guides in manufacturing, pictures of parts and machinery or factories. The use cases really are endless, and that's why embeddings are so powerful. So one of the processes we're showing today for embeddings is illustrated on this slide. So let's say we're training it with objects 1, 2, and 3. These objects will go through the embedding model, aka knowledge enrichment. And the output of this will be embeddings in the form of vectors, the fingerprints of each object. Next slide. Now let's say we throw in object 4. Go ahead and click it. Perfect. Which is similar to object 3. These embeddings will be similar. To object 3, and we can infer information now about the object. So once again, each object has embeddings related to it. We can think of this as the fingerprint of the object. Now, when a new object is uploaded, perhaps the fingerprint is similar to other objects' fingerprints. We're able to infer information on that object based on its fingerprint. Next slide. So what we're going to show today is an ad hoc Nuxio plugin where an image is uploaded, embeddings are created, and give the ability to generate a description and metadata about the image and analyze it further. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chet to show that.
Perfect. Let me end the show here and share the right screen. Bear with me while we switch over. And you should see my screen. This is coming all the way from Europe, so it'll be okay. You can see my screen now, right?
We're seeing the slides.
Perfect. Okay, let me share the other screen. Apologies. And share. That screen, come on. There we go, and you should see it now. Okay, so grab your tissues, folks. This is going to be some profound beauty in action. But no, in all seriousness, I, having worked with the Nuxio platform, each and every time I get the opportunity to present, I'm reminded more and more of just how flexible and open this platform is. What you're seeing today, and Abby, we haven't even had a chance to discuss it, but I intend showing a little bit more than just the knowledge enrichment process of embeddings, purely because I mean some of the stuff is really hot off the press, and we've managed to get it into this demonstration today. So as Abby mentioned, what we do, we've stood up a Nuxio instance in AWS. Our EMEA friends have helped build a plugin in a matter of days. So we're not talking weeks, months. In a matter of days, we put together this plugin. And then essentially through having this plugin and some really neat design capabilities, what you're seeing here is the Nuxio web UI. I know there's a ton of folk on this call that this is not new to them. This is the Nuxio web UI, but really, again, just with the click of a button, being able to add these actions and embrace all that is new when it comes to knowledge enrichment. So I'm going to kick it off with, I was going to do a fairly generic one, but I think I'm going to leverage a little bit of my lunch today. So let me move that out the way. So this is a picture of what I had for lunch today. I think you'll be impressed at my food choices. If anything, otherwise my ability to slice is pretty good. But we essentially stuck with an image that really presents itself with no value. So how do we add value? And what I'm going to demonstrate today is, yes, we're going to be doing these things through the clicks of the button, but in the real world, the scenario is that this will all be automated. These are components that are executed in the background, and really our end user or our consumer is going to be presented with content that has been enriched and that has value for its purpose in the organization. So what do we start off with, right? So we start off with our knowledge enrichment service where we're able to classify. So this is something new, again, hot off the press. How do we classify this image? So what's happening at the click of this button is we're actually going out to Highland's knowledge enrichment service. Might take a while to come back, but essentially we're giving it this photo and we're saying, on this photo, I want you to give me, and we present it with a list. We say, we give you a choice. It's either photography, it's either a newspaper, or it's a cartoon, and we want you to come back and tell us what it is. So you can see that in this classification process, it's correctly classified as photography, which is great. So we know that our knowledge enrichment feature in terms of picture classification is working. But that does very, very little for us in our process. So what we want to do now is we want to be able to get a description of the image and then create those embeddings. So if we take for the technical folk that are on the call and that may be interested, if we take a look at the way that this object is presented in Nuxio itself is through this JSON structure, you'll see that we have no embeddings that have been generated for this specific object. Sorry, let me move that out the way. So let's go back to my picture here, and let's go ahead and fire this description and embeddings. So what happens here? So this is the process that Abby talks about in terms of generating the fingerprint for that document. We take this document, we send it off to Highland's knowledge enrichment capability or its platform, and what we get back is we get a description of the image. So we're using the picture description capability, but even more so is we have a fingerprint now. And what you'll see, again, if we visit our JSON structure, is you'll see we've now generated a stack of embeddings. My understanding is, without going into too much of the technical detail, for every image, we generate 1,024 embeddings. So we have a fingerprint that is really built around 1,024 embeddings or vectors. So that's great. We've got these embeddings. What do we do with them? Well, here's really where we start to demonstrate the power of using embeddings in platforms like Alfresco, Nuxio, and, well, to be honest, across the Panel suite itself, is using those embeddings to further enrich our content. So what we do is we take those embeddings in Nuxio, we store them, and essentially what we do then, when we want to further enrich and get further metadata about this specific picture, so metadata about the image, we take the embeddings for this image and we send it to Nuxio. We obviously all of our embeddings from our trained images. Over here, I'll show you a stack of images that we've trained. So each of these images have full embeddings. And we then send the embeddings to Nuxio of our new image. And in this case, it was the salad I had for lunch. And we say, right, of these embeddings, of this fingerprint, find ones or embeddings or fingerprints that are similar to these. And then based on that, we say, okay, if this fingerprint is similar to this fingerprint, we can infer that the metadata should be the same, right? So in this case, what we're expecting is to say the image metadata needs to come back to say what device took the photo, what is the orientation of the photo, just based on embeddings of other pictures that we've used. So let's go ahead and get some image metadata here. Again, this process is an asynchronous process that happens. We, in the background, of the click of this button, fire off this and get some, here you can see some additional data around this specific picture. So here we know, as I mentioned, who was the manufacturer. In this case, it's the manufacturer of the camera that took this image, the orientation, and we have some additional keywords that have come back in from this metadata enriching process. I'm going to pause there.
Okay, so I just need to ask a question because I'm the dumb person here. So
yes,
all this description was created by the image.
Correct.
Just by looking at the image.
Correct. This description was created not just by the image, through the power of using Highland's knowledge enrichment service that's available today. That's what we've been able to demonstrate through this integration in Nuxio.
This is crazy.
So, and I agree with you. I mean, the last week in preparation for this demo has been an absolute eye-opening experience for me. I think we're on the right path here when it comes to being able to deliver this type of content enrichment and knowledge enrichment capability. So that kind of now we're drawing towards the end of how do we enrich this, but we want to know more. We want to know, hey, what's in this photograph? How do I understand what this photograph is made up of? In an example of in factories, does this picture is this picture a picture of a part of my machinery? Is this a safety concern for the way that my business is operating? Well, again, using the power of knowledge enrichment, we can go ahead and take this picture, submit it, and create what we call entities. So here in this case, we're going to go ahead and, again, in the background, I'm pushing a button here. For all intents and purposes, this needs to be, will be done programmatically and automatically in the background. But now I've created a whole bunch of entities. So I can see I've got a color reference. In this case, it's created some color references for me. And it's also got a food entity reference. So you can see that we've got lettuce, tomato, and cucumbers. Again, I've done nothing but use Highland's knowledge enrichment and served it in a very flexible manner through Nuxio's repository services. So that kind of then brings us to the end of how we've enriched this. We started off with just a simple picture of my salad for lunch, and we've ended off with a significant amount of keywords, descriptions, metadata, and entities in a very short space of time. If I may just share with you where we're heading, just from a further demonstration, right? So let me pick. Let's switch over to text, for instance. So let's go to text. This is the sample contract, right? So what I'm going to present to you today is, again, around the context of asking the questions of what if. What if we could use this for a precursor to IDP? What if we could use this as an opportunity to maybe present this in front of people who may not necessarily need all of the information? it's a precursor to, or a trigger to asking the questions of what if. So let's have a look at a simple contract. There's nothing in this that's really complex. We've started playing around with this today, but the results have been fantastic. So again, how do we classify this? So we take this contract, we send it to knowledge enrichment, and we say, of possibilities of being a PO, an invoice, and a contract, give me what do you think this is. So here you can see we've got the classification to say that it is a contract, correct. So we're winning. But then available today, we have the ability to do named entities. So in the instance of a contract, what if we could then use this to understand contracts more? So who, in my case, who are the entities that this contract is about? What is the value of this contract? What are the dates that this contract is valid for? So just by simply creating entities, yes, very much in its infancy, we've just started testing this, but this is just showing you the art of the possible as the precursor to what if. And then finally, simply put, if we wanted to send this contract to Tara, and Tara is very busy. She's just landed in Highland, and she's getting herself up to speed. She doesn't want to read through an entire contract, right? All she wants to do is just to get to know what she needs to know. So we have the ability then to, again, use knowledge enrichment to use our text summarization capabilities, and just through very simple, simple integrations, be able to get a summary of what this contract is about. So no need to read the whole contract, but we have the ability to just get the summary. So I think in a very short space of time, we've demonstrated the art of the possible, some really exciting stuff that's happening in this space, not only with knowledge enrichment, but also with our Pano repositories. The flexibility that Nuxio introduces, we can shift and change this. I mean, today these plugins are available in the Nuxio store, so we can use this as we need to. We can build this out, and let me tell you, this is just a start for us. I think we're super excited as to where this is going. So that kind of wraps up my demo. I want to put it out there. Are there any questions, any comments? We'd love to get some ideas, and then before I hand it over back just to Abby to close out for us. Any questions, comments? Any tears?
Very moving, Chet.
Really?
Your vegetables.
I felt like crying for sure.
Yeah, your vegetables really emotions to not only myself, but it seems like the whole crew there with some of the comments in the chat.
Okay.
I thought there was cheers. I thought there was peppers in there. I'm crying. Because I thought there was peppers in there.
Yeah, I forgot the onions. I didn't cut the onions. So.
Hey, Chet, have you tried anything with sentiment analysis to kind of say, based on this person looks happy, sad? Have we started playing around to see what we get back with that?
Yeah, well, we haven't, and that's not to say that that we can't. I think we would certainly need to stretch the capabilities that we have today, but there's nothing stopping us from using other capabilities and other services that could do perhaps a sentiment analysis for us. And those services may not exist in Highland today, so as a stopgap, we could use others that exist in AWS. But Mike, if this is something that we feel like, hey, we need to show, I would welcome the opportunity to have some time outside of this call for us to test it. I mean, we have these environments. Don was just on now talking about how easy it is to set these environments up. Let's do it. It's make and break.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Abby, do you have anything to close out with, or are we okay to move on?
I think we're okay to move on. We just had some sample use cases, but like Chet mentioned, the more ideas, the better. Always happy to chat about this and go from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both Abby and Chad. Abby, your presentation at the beginning set the stage wonderfully for exactly what the functionality and software we're going to see was. So thank you very much for doing that. I think there was a comment or two in the chat that said that was probably the best description they've seen so far. So definitely appreciate it. All right. Up next, we have GovEd and Perceptive joint presentation coming up. J-Mac asked to kick it off. So Mr. McWilliams, the floor is yours.
All right. Can you see the slide?
Good to go, my friend.
Cool. So this is going to be a 3-in-1 demo. So we wanted to take a moment to just tee it up. No times of factors. I'll try to be brief. Ron is going to show CIC IDP transcript processing with OnBase, and then Tony and Gary will follow that, showing CIC IDP transcript processing with perceptive content. Last but certainly not least, Larry is going to round out the group presentation by showing an authorization to release student record solution using Automate and OnBase. So why this? We know academically that CIC solutions are portable and can be integrated into virtually any system, but we wanted to use this opportunity to specifically illustrate that for our ECM product portfolio. Also, by exploring the art of the possible, the sales engineering teams are going to be better prepared and positioned to proactively collaborate with product as we try and move forward with new ways of doing things like transcript processing. Like a lot of the demonstrations today, this is a team effort. So Patrick impressed me about collaborating. I'm very happy with the way the teams have worked together, but I'd also like to thank Keith and Justin Carlson for supporting the team's efforts and getting ready for this. And then finally, said it was going to be quick. Finally, the big disclaimer, this transcript processing demo, the demos themselves are more of a technical exploration and proof of concept. It's not ready for prime time. What we're showing is not necessarily a like-for-like comparison to the existing brainware-based solutions. Some integration details are still outstanding. So again, this is more of an exploration of what can we do with the tools we have today. I expect formal brainware replacement solutions to come via product sometime in the future. But with that, I'd like to hand it over to Ron to dive into IDP transcript processing with OnBase.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, share here. All right, so I've got, in the interest of time, I've staged a couple of these things in different steps of the process. But what I wanted to do is, like Jason said, an important part of this is to help schools with the whole idea of processing transcripts. It's a very manual process. We've got brainware that's been around for over a decade. It's showing some age, so we would like to get something that's a little more modern, can be hosted in the cloud. So that's where the CIC solution is coming in. The first thing I'm going to do is I've got my transcripts application here. I've got one that is queued up for field review. And we'll look at that here in a second. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and get another one going. It takes a couple of minutes for the process to run on these transcripts to do all of the classification and extraction of the data. So I'm just going to grab a transcript that I have here and get it started in the process so we can kind of see that as we go through the demo today. If I go over to OnBase and I do a search for transcripts, you'll see that there are two of them that are already here. So these are ones that I ran through before the demo today. You can see that the actual document came over, as well as this keyword data that has come over as well. The keyword data is fields that were read off of the page by IDP. So let's walk through that a little bit more. This task that I have sitting here waiting for me to work on is called field review. In a perfect world, the system could read every piece of data off of the page and we'd never have to have a human look at it. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. So field review is the step where there's something missing off the page, or the technology isn't quite sure. Maybe the OCR is bad, it's a bad image, something like that. On this particular one, as I go down these different fields, you can see the data that was read off of the page, and it highlights over on the right in green where it found that piece of data. I'm not going to go into how we set all this up that could be another demo, but getting the project set up to read these fields off of the page is extremely easy. It's something that in Brainware could take a week to do. In IDP, you could do it in an hour and have it running. It's really amazing. The reason it stopped was because there is not a student level on this transcript. So I'm just going to type in a value here just to put in for this field. In this demo, I'm not pulling off the coursework. We don't have, this was mentioned earlier, I think Tim mentioned it. We're still working on getting table data passed over to OnBase. So I haven't pulled coursework off of my pages here. I'm really more concerned with the whole process of getting a transcript in, reading some of the data off the page, and getting it passed over to OnBase successfully. So as a verifier or user that's looking at the data, I've verified that everything has been read off the page. We've got all this information, so I'll just submit this. And then that's going to go through that process of pushing it over into OnBase. Real quick, if you look at, this was asked earlier, this is my the process. So we've got everything from the uploading of the transcript. We do the classification, what kind of document is it? We do extraction, we pull that data off, field review if we need to look at something. But here's the important piece that we're working on today is getting the keyword data populated and getting all of that information sent over to OnBase. Luckily in Automate, we've got components that allow us to do that very easily. It's a plug and play configure and you're off and running. So if I go back over here to OnBase, I'm going to redo my search. And now we see a couple of more transcripts that are there. This is the one we were just looking at in the field review screen. So we've got the document. And then all of our keywords you can see have been populated based on the information that it read off of the page. This other one here, this Grant Bruce one, this is one that went straight through. So it did not stop at field review. It read all of the information off of the page. And again, the keyword data was passed over successfully from IDP over into keywords into OnBase. I know that Tony and Gary have some more information to share on transcript processing. So with that, I will pass it over to them.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron. I'm going to quickly share my screen a minute. Okay. So in this instance, we're going to do something, some very similar work to what Ron presented to you. But in this case, we're actually going to kick this off with an Automate form. So in our kind of storyline, we have an admissions office that has reached out to a student and said, hey, we need to get your transcript from you to help further process your admissions application. So in this instance, I'm a student. I can click the link in my email. It brings me to a student portal that we have set up. And from there, I'm actually able to initiate the capture of the transcript directly through an Automate form. Now, it's a very simple Automate form, so we haven't really put a lot of time into this because Larry's going to dive a little bit deeper into Automate and its usages here in a couple minutes. But for just the sake of proof of concept, we're kind of showing that we have the ability here to capture a transcript and send it through Automate into IDP for processing. As I do that, it's showing just how easy it is to grab this stuff and send it in. From there, I've successfully submitted it. Now, to Ron's point, it takes a couple of minutes to process. So we've got some examples staged. I'm going to hand it off to Tony to take over and talk about the capture through IDP, where we'll kind of dive into even some of the coursework capture.
Great, thanks, Gary. I'll go ahead and share. So then on the college side, you can see here I've got an email that is ready for me to click on. So transcripts, as Gary mentioned, he showed an example there, right, of a student kicking off an upload process. But transcripts can be received in many different ways, such as directly from the student, from a institution or a clearinghouse, and they can come in different formats, including digital files, typically PDF, as well as paper. The key is it doesn't matter. They can all be consumed into a CIC process. So again, Gary uploaded a transcript using a simple automate form that a student might use. The transcript is going to travel a CIC process flow through classification, field extraction, and then upload into perceptive content. So if there's data points that need to be reviewed, CIC will send a task notification like the one on my screen. And that's where the transcript evaluator can click on that link to take them right into the review of the transcript and the data points that need to be reviewed. So kind of like what Ron showed, I'm in a field review screen here. And one thing that you'll notice is different is that we have a course list table down below. And so what's really kind of neat, what kind of impressed me when setting this up was just how it highlights where it's picking up each of the data points. I was also, impressed that it was even able to find, like the semester and year. And you can see on this transcript here, June 10, fall 2011. It's applying that fall 2011 to all the courses that fall within there. There you go. You see fall 2010 being listed there. So just like as Ron showed, as you highlight the different fields here, it's letting us see where it's picking up the different data points from the transcript. And then once evaluation of the transcript is done, that can be submitted. Now, again, just a quick look at the process. At the very start was Gary showed you a form that kicks off the process. It goes through classification. If it needs to be reviewed, it's reviewed. Otherwise, it goes to an extraction step. This is going to loop through the different files that were captured. So, they may have uploaded one-to-many files. If it needs field review, that's where we would receive a task notification like I demonstrated. And then after that, the document is created into Perceptive with the properties, such as, say, student ID, the institution that the transcript is from, and then the file, the physical file, is added, and then it completes out the process. I'm going to hand it back over to Gary now to round out the transcript process.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. I'm going to reshare my screen real quick here. So as Tony was talking about, the real meat and potatoes to this is going to be handing over the coursework data, which we don't have working at this moment. So this is kind of a concept of what it would look like. As we process these transcripts, we pull the coursework data off of the transcript and we create documents inside of Perceptive. Like Ron showed in OnBase, we can do the same thing in Perceptive and can create them with what Perceptive calls keys and custom properties instead of keywords. You're able to then search and find those documents, things like that. But interacting with and updating systems of record like PeopleSoft or Banner or Colleague, student information systems like that, we really need that coursework data. And we're able to do that in Perceptive through the use of our e-form that we use for processing transcripts. And this e-form allows us to store all of the coursework data that would be pulled off of. And this is an example of what that transcript that Tony processed would look like once we are successful in bringing over that XML data to load this form. And from here, we're able to check equivalencies and update the system of record and really bring kind of a full circle automation to that transcript process from Perceptive. One thing that I did want to quick point out too from what Tony was talking about is as it processed these course records, it successfully handled a 2-column transcript, which is not easy to do. And it did it pretty much right out of the bat. So it was really exciting for Tony and I as we were working on this to see that not only were we able to pull some coursework off of that transcript, but we were actually able to see it successfully jump from one column to the next on pulling that data. But in talking about the art of the possible, this is really what we're talking about, right? What is possible? How can we actually start to do some transcript processing automation for institutions that brings some meaningful efficiencies to them that they've been missing for quite some time? And we're really excited about what we've been able to see. With that, I'm going to hand off to Larry for Automate.
Okay, thanks, Gary. One second here. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of a shift from IDP and go over to the automate forms and on-base side. So basically what I'm going to be showing here is a student filling out a form. So this could be for our maybe existing customers or for prospects that maybe don't want to use our Unity forms or e-forms, but want to use automate forms and have those automate forms go directly into OnBase. So the example that I'm going to show is a authorization to release student records. So this is an example of a existing form that could be out on a student site that they would maybe pull this down, they'd print it off, and then they would, email it to the appropriate people at the university, or maybe they would mail it in or hand deliver it. So taking this existing type of form, putting it in as an automate form, having the students submit it, and then again having it go directly into OnBase and into an OnBase workflow. So let me jump into my workspace here, and I'm going to go ahead and start the process here to kick off my form. So kind of like what Gary just showed, where that form was sitting out on maybe like the student portal, so the student could log into their existing portal, click on a link that says authorization to release student record form, and have this exact form pull up for them. So taking that PDF version of that form and putting it into an automate form. So I'm just going to quickly kind of go through all these fields and fill them in. They're kind of already auto-filled, so we'll go ahead and pull some of this in. So example here, the student's ID is 67795. We put that in, it automatically filled in their first and last name in here. Could have auto-filled some of this other information as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just quickly fill in some of this information here as we're kind of winding through the form here. The dates in here. And then here's just the people that they want to give access to or authorized to use this form. So it's going to just be his parents. So we'll just put his mother and his father in here. Quickly, we'll just add these in. And then the purpose for this, we'll just say need for internship. And here, and then the signature, and then just automatically just defaulted today's date in here at the date signed. And here could have left that as a read-only field in here if you want to kind of block them from being able to change the date that they submit the form. But again, just to log that in as today's date in here. So once that student has filled out all the information on the form, and again, there's things with the red asterisk, meaning those are required fields. So I wouldn't be able to submit this without having those required fields filled in. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just submit that form. And now that form should be actually right over into OnBase at this point here. I'm going to go over and just do kind of a show from the process here. We'll just kind of refresh the scene in here, so you can see here that basically we generated that document, which was a submission, and we sent that directly over to OnBase. So as soon as that form was submitted, it was created over on the OnBase side. So I'm going to jump over to OnBase. Here we'll go into our Unity client here. We'll just do a quick find refresh in here. And basically I did two things in here. So here's the form that we just brought in. So again, just taking that, PDF looking version of that form. And in this case here, just created an image of that form with the data that came over. Can look at some of the keyword information that we pulled over to that form as well. The other thing that I did is maybe there is some additional information that needs to be done on that particular form. So we don't really need want that form to be locked down, or there's maybe some additional approvals as it's going through the workflow that we want to add to the form. So I've also created a Unity form version of that same form. So we have the the information pulled over, and again, maybe there's like some approvals as it's going through the associated workflow. So again, being able to create a Unity form version of that particular form. And again, from a workflow perspective, you can see then just this authorization to release process in here. And now that form is now sitting in the, sitting already within my advisor review queue, just from the fact that the student did the submission of that particular form. That is basically what I was going to show, kind of hopefully caught us up a little bit on time. At this point, I'll go ahead and pass it back to, Patrick.
Yep. No, excellent. Thanks. Thanks. Everybody can see my screen, maybe? Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Larry. Great job. And I know we're on a time check, so real quick, just wanted to hit on a couple of points. First of all, it was great working on the cross collaboration with JMAC's team. That was a really fun experience. And Justin and Brian and Heath, thanks for coming on. Really been able to push the envelope a little bit to show the back of the Pano products. The first time we did this on the government side, we did alfresco. Now we're using OnBase and content. That was really cool. The brainware piece of this, although not ready for prime time yet, it potentially could be a game changer for the higher ed vertical, which is a flat to declining market space for us right now. So if we can get in and really get this done, that would be wonderful. And again, Angelo, not ready for prime time yet. I'm kind of saying that tongue in cheek from our seller's perspective. We'll run to get out there, but we're moving close and we've got a lot of enthusiasm around it. So with that, I just want to say thank you guys. And Larry, Em, I think that's us. I think that's it for us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, the collaboration between the teams was awesome. Thank you for working together and putting this out there. A lot of talk about the transcript solution in general. So love to see the first step here as we continue to refine and build. We'll keep talking with product engineering to make sure that we can put a solution around this and, make sure that Angelo and the rest of the crew have a solution to go to market with and hopefully, take back and start replacing some of our legacy brainware solutions. So very happy to see what what you and the team have come up with so far. All right, up next, we've got the insurance team. We got Will Dellinger, who's going to present a new underwriting automate solution, and Craig's going to talk about medical bill processing with IDP. So, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you for the intro there, Larry. Let me get my screen shared here. I think it's this one. All right. So you should see an insurance application up there. Let me know if it's not coming through. But yeah, so hey, everybody, my name is Will Dellinger from the insurance team. Today, I'm going to be demonstrating a new business commercial underwriting submission process in Automate. So basically, we're going to submit a packet that contains an application and other related documents. This is the packet that we're going to be submitting. The first 4 pages are going to be our application. After that, we're going to have a certificate of liability insurance, the loss run report, which is all of our past claims that this company, Green Tech Solutions, has had, and then also a vehicle schedule, which is all the vehicles that they are going to need coverage for. So to kick off this process, we are using a form. So we have a few little bits here to fill out to give us some information to go into our process. So our applicant is Green Tech Solutions. Our agency, we're going to say, is NAB agency. Phone number doesn't really matter. But then our contact is going to be me, Will Dellinger. I'm going to be the agent submitting this application on the behalf of Green Tech Solutions, and I'll fill in my email here. This is what's going to be used to send me email notifications throughout this automate process. We have a little checkbox here, whether or not the application is signed. We're using this in Automate to determine if we need to send the application to DocuSign in order to get it signed or not. In future versions, we're hoping to work this into IDP in order to just automatically determine if the application is signed and then send it based on that. But for right now, we're just using a checkbox. And then I'll go ahead and attach our packet. Right here. And so we now have our packet attached. Once I hit the start process here, it's going to go into IDP. The documents will be separated, classified, and then all the necessary indexing information will be captured using the IDP. Now, I actually already staged this one, so I'm not going to actually submit it. I've already submitted this. It's now gone into our classification review. As we can see, we've got 4 different documents that we identified. We got the application correctly identified, the certificate of insurance, our loss run, and then the vehicle schedule. All the other ones that are grayed out here are documents that we could have in this process, but were not identified. One thing I do like on this screen that I like to show is the show issues only little toggle here, where when you come in here, if you're not sure exactly what you need to work on, if something wasn't identified correctly, it's very easy to find it, and you can turn that back on to see everything. And then obviously, if something was misidentified in here, we could change the class just by selecting whatever it actually is. Or if we got a bad scan or an incomplete document, we can reject the document completely from within here. So we've done our classification. The next step in the process is going to be that it goes to our field review. If we look at the diagram on the actual document AI process, we'll see where it is in the process. So we went through separation, classification. We just did our class review, our user step. And now we're going through extraction. Next step is going to be that field review. And these diagrams, I like these. These are very good for admins to see where things are in the process. So that's where our individual AI process is. The overarching process for this submission is going to be down here. This is the full process that we're going to go through. I'll try to get through as quickly as possible. But right now we're in this sub process that we just looked at where we have routed to the CIC IDP. Let's look and see if we've gotten it back yet. Okay, so you'll remember we had 4 documents. So we have a task for each of those documents here in field review. And I'll also point out that we're getting email notifications for each of these steps. So when our submission was first sent in, I got this email telling me it was received. Here's your submission ID. And we're basically just using the current date and time for the submission. That's going to be our submission ID. For this demo, and then every time that we have a task that's created and assigned to a user, I'm having them automatically assigned to me, and so I'm also getting these emails where being told, hey, I have a task in class review, and then all these ones I just got for those 4 new field review documents I need to review. So we'll jump back in here, check out what we extracted. So this first one is the vehicle schedule. We got the insured name, and we got this table of all the vehicle information, which it looks like it's kind of a hit and miss on this one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's too bad. And then we have a summary here of the entire document, basically telling us, there's 5 vehicles on this, and then it gives a little more of a breakdown of those vehicles a little bit more. So if everything's okay with this, I'll just hit submit, move on to our next document. We'll get them through this process. Looks like we extracted everything correctly off of our loss report, I think including the table here at the bottom, which is nice. And I like that you can come in here, click the different fields, see exactly where they're being pulled from on the document. And I'll also point out that this total paid here, this was one that actually added up all of the 3 individual claims here, and it totaled out the amount here, which I think is a cool little thing to show as well. And let's work through these last 2. This is our certificate of insurance. I pulled a few fields off of this. I like to show this one here, the coverages. We pulled all the selected coverages that are here and listed them out as a field. And one other thing that I sometimes forget to show is that you can actually switch between the image rendition and the text rendition after this has been OCR'd. This is what basically it's going to look like to the LLM when it's reading it. And our last document, this should be the application. Yep. And this is, again, grabbing a bunch of fields off of here, including like this one here, I think is cool to show the lines of business. We actually are displaying only the ones that have a check mark next to them, and then we are grabbing the premium with that as well. So we're doing a little bit of extraction off of the table. Okay, so we go back to this layout here. We can see where we've gotten in our process. We've gotten through all of our capture steps, and now we have determined, is there a signature on the application? There is not, so we have sent the application to DocuSign, and then DocuSign is going to send me an email in order for me to sign this document. Here it is, just in time. So we'll go ahead and review the application, get it signed, so it can move on in our automate process. And we'll sign it at the bottom. And finish next thing. And my media controls are in the way. There we go. Okay, so now it's going to, again, move along in our process. It's in this this sub process where we're sending for signature. If we want, we could even, while it's running, we could even take a look at here and see where it's at in the process. This is our signature sub process, and it's basically waiting to download, it looks like. So we should have it here pretty soon. Okay, yes. So we'll go back and look at our full process. So we are now here. We basically came back, got our signature. We checked if everything is in good order in order to go to an underwriter and be reviewed, and we found that it wasn't. So we've now gone to a user queue here where we can manage our NIGO, which is a not in good order reasons. And we've got a task. And like I said before, we're also sending out emails for everything. So I've got an email with a link directly to it. So if I don't want to go out to my CIC and go directly to that task, I can just use the link here in the email, and it'll go take me directly to that NIGO task. So I can see that Green Tech Solutions has submitted for insurance, and the reason it did not pass is because we don't have a property schedule received. So I now, as the person working this task, I can go reach out to the agent or the submitter, whoever I need to. I can get that property schedule, and I can go ahead and just attach it directly here. This folder that pops up here first is actually the folder where it's stored in the CIC repository. So we'll just switch over here to local storage, drag and drop our property schedule, and we will attach. And now down here, I have this submit missing documents task. So this is going to route that property schedule back through IDP to get it identified and extract everything off of it. I'll go ahead and point out down here. This is where we're actually storing everything here inside of CIC. So we have our insurance folder. Under that, we have commercial, and then under submissions, we have a folder that uses the submission ID. This is all the documents that we have so far around this submission. We have our original packet, the property schedule I just submitted, and then these are the individual documents that are broken out after they went through IDP. All right, so if we go back here, we can see where everything went. After we had our NIGO reasons, I submitted our missing documents. It went back through here to IDP, checked if it was in a good order. It is now. So we sent an email saying, hey, this is going to underwriter review, assigned it to an underwriter, and now our underwriter, which again is going to be me, I can come in here and take a look at all the information that we have aggregated together, make sure it's in good order, and I can determine if we want to put together a quote and bind it. So we have a tab here for each of the documents that we captured. They'll all have the properties of of that document listed here, and then we can view them as well. So we just hit this, the file name here, and then we just hit this little button and say view. And I can actually go between the different tabs, and I can view different documents at basically the same time by switching between them. So if I want to look at the application, check out some stuff on there, go to the loss run, check those out. Maybe I need to look at some of the properties on the property schedule. But once I have everything ready, and also point out you can view these in full screen. It's kind of hard to view like that. There's a little button up in the top left, so you can go full screen with these documents as well. And then to close that viewer, there's just a little X up in the top there. So once I, as the underwriter, am satisfied, I think this is okay to move on. I'm just going to put an effective date on here so that I can move it forward. We'll say June 1st, and then I'm going to quote and bind. This is going to do a few things. It's going to create a quote. It's going to create a welcome letter, acknowledgement letter, and then it's actually going to move our folder of all the documents that we have been gathering so far, because we were doing a submission, but now we've moved it on to an actual policy. So that's going to be moved as well. Let's see where it's at in the process. Yeah, okay, so we've gone all the way through the process now. So if I go back here and try to find that same folder that we looked at before, we'll notice that it doesn't exist anymore under the submissions folder. These are two other ones. If we go to the policies folder, we now have this one for Green Tech Solutions. We have these two new documents at the top that were created. This top one, the policy acknowledgement. The highlighted fields there are ones that were filled in with metadata that we provided. The rest of this is a template, and this gets sent out to our new insured. And we also created this policy quote. And again, we filled in information that we provided both on the form that we submitted and from the documents that we submitted, and we pulled information off of those as well. And then, like I said, those will get sent out in an email. The only limitation that we're running into right now is that they're being sent out as a temp file. So that's an issue that we're working on getting fixed. Yeah, so in conclusion, we were able to submit a packet, separate all the documents in it, identify them, pull indexing information off of them, make sure that our application was signed. We were able to make sure that we have all the documents that we need in order to serve it up to an underwriter. We did that, and then we're able to quote bind the policy and go all the way through the process. So I will go ahead and stop, and I will hand you off to my colleague, Mr. Craig Deckelman, who's going to provide a medical bill IDP scenario from conversations that he had with Chesapeake Insurance.
Cool. Thanks, Will. Great job. Mine should be pretty short and sweet. The main goal I want to show you is that we have a solution now, or we're working towards a solution for what we see in insurance and within our healthcare verticals for CMS and UBO4 forms. So in the past within insurance, when we would see these forms, we essentially would, run and hide or recommend any doc, or in some cases evaluated brain wear, but often did not have really a solution to come to the table with that we felt confident that we could deploy and confident that we could repeatedly offer to customers. So one of our customers, actually Safe Insurance, they are a workers' comp carrier in Oregon, evaluated HIDP. They then kind of got wind of CIC IDP and wanted to really focus on this as a use case. So they provided us some blank forms. I created some basic ones to run through and the positive results. So these forms are very complex. They require a lot of fields. So you can see here that we're capturing probably 20, 30 fields off of this form. And if we go to our UBO4 form, same concept, tables, a lot of data in a lot of different spots. And ultimately, all of this data needs to be compiled and exported and routed into other forms downstream. So in a lot of cases, they're capturing this not to index and search through in like an OnBase or a Pano solution. They're capturing this data to prep it and push it to another solution, which is, all the value of the products that we're trying to, solution through this. The last thing I'll say that we're working towards. We're already partnering with the healthcare team to try to work together collaboratively on how we can build a joint solution for this. So, leveraging some of their front end UI work that they're already working on. Also, their deeper knowledge of these forms. Like I said, in the insurance space, when we would see these, we often would kind of defer. In healthcare, they have some other tools and processes that they've been able to successfully navigate this with customers. So, leveraging that partnership, working with them to hopefully create a joint solution and continue to build this out. We're set to show this to the customer next week, get some initial feedback, find out if these are complex enough or if they need to send us some more difficult forms. But overall, wanted to share this with the group. Very exciting. I think our main goal in sharing this is just to once again hit on the fact that these are solutions that in the past we couldn't even talk to customers about, and now we can confidently go in and show them this with to what the chat's kind of talking through. The configuration on this took half hour. In previous solutions, we wouldn't be able to configure it, or it would take hours and hours to even configure these basic keywords and tables to capture. So, very exciting stuff for two of our verticals, and excited to collaborate with the healthcare team further to, make this a really good demo.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, the front of that solution, Will, great work with that. I know it was not an easy task, and there's a lot happening behind the scenes and under the covers inside of CIC to pull all it together and pull all the values and make that move through automate the right way. But nonetheless, great work there, and certainly great showcase of IDPs. We talked about the front end of this demo fest. Tim alluded to it, and so did I. So excellent work putting everything together. And then Craig, hitting the nail on the head there. We're now in a position where we can start to talk with prospects and customers about things that we'd have to run and hide from. So just kind of scratching the surface there, and very excited for the table extraction pieces and some of the other functionality that we'll be able to start to leverage and opportunities that we'll be able to get into and hopefully get some revenue out of. So thank you for putting that together. All right. Next up, healthcare. So Sam, I believe, is going to present an IDP for a healthcare solution for business correspondence. So Sam, it's all yours, my friend.
All right. Well, I'll try and get us back on schedule. I don't have a whole lot here to show that people haven't shown already, but I'll go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen. And what we're going to look at today is the official solution from product. So what we've been showing, and you should see my screen here now. What we've been showing and presenting to a lot of our customers now is our IBC solution, and we've been presenting this as a beta program. So we're giving our customers the opportunity to sign up for a beta trial of this, where they would have this, and they would have to de-identify their documents, but they would be able to go through, see how this is functioning, see the end user screens, and then give us feedback so that we can actively make this better. I don't have the actual solution that is going to be available for that beta, which is going to start here soon. That won't be available until the 20th of next month for me to put into this environment for others to demo. But I do have some click-through screens that we've been showing customers, and I also have pulled up here the live studio modeling, and I'll show you how we've been demonstrating this and what's been kind of the most effective when we're talking to customers about this solution. So a lot of our customers, when it comes to IBC, have seen multiple iterations of this solution. They've seen it, starting back when we started presenting brainware-based solutions right after IMR. We went down the IBC path, and we've been presenting the brainware solution for a while, and there's some key things that brainware solution just was unable to do or was unable to do really quickly. And those are a lot of the things that we try and highlight here in this demo. So typically when I pull this up, we go through an introduction, including a large disclaimer, because it is part of a beta program. And then I'll start with this screen, and we walk through some of the different options here. And what's been most effective when talking to these customers, these are all existing customers who are already familiar with OnBase, who are already familiar with this process. And the vast majority of them either have an IBC solution or have seen multiple IBC presentations with the brainware solution or with a solution that we put together in HIDP. And so they're already familiar with the process. So we come in here and we generally talk about the different types of documents. And some of the documents that we have already in here would be appeals denial letters. So we've got some examples here of some appeal denial letters. We've got multiple here. And I just like to click through and show them, some actual documents that we have here that have been redacted, and show them, how we've extracted a patient name and a patient ID and so on. But what's been really effective is when we're having these conversations with the customer, give them the opportunity to tell us what they're looking for in the document. And so I was on a call the other day, and they were asking, hey, what if I wanted to separate out my Aetna documents because I have to process those differently? So live in a demo, and what I'm going to do now is I can come in here and I can just create a class, and I'll create that class and I'll say, this is an appeal denial letter. So I'll go ahead and I'll appeal denial letter from Aetna, and then I can give it a bit of a description here, and this is a description that I've been using that is a little bit more effective. And that's all I have to do. And the customer really likes the fact that they can come in here, define kind of what they want to see, and then we can go ahead and classify these documents. So if you noticed, I had an Aetna document pulled up there that was in the appeals denial letter, subcategory. In there, I had 6 or 7 documents. And when this goes back through, it's going to pull over that letter that we had pulled up. So this appeal 19, and then it's also going to grab this other letter that we hadn't even looked at. This is for a different customer or a different customer of Aetna, and it's gone ahead and it's pulled those in, and we can see that it's left this. And this has been really powerful for the customer to see, to be able to go in and change this on the fly to get exactly what they're looking for. They also really like the field suggestions over here. So if you noticed up here on some of these other examples where you just are extracting the patient name and the patient ID, down here, I clicked away, so is going to re-grab these suggestions. But down here, it's going to suggest, do we want to get the patient's first name, last name, an ID, the date that it's mentioning, and a couple of other things. And these are all auto-generated. And then on an actual demo, I'll go ahead and accept these, and then it will go through and it will extract these. In the interest of time, I'm sure everybody has seen this demo once or twice, and you can actively come in here if you have access to this. So mainly the people on the healthcare team, but you can actively come in here, accept these, and you can see it's going to go ahead and extract those. Some of the other things that have been actually really powerful with the customers, the custom demos that are possible with this. So in the past, especially with IBC, when we're talking about building a custom demo in Brainware, that was a multi-week, perhaps a month engagement where we're getting their documents, we're going through, and we are first de-identifying those, or we're standing up a new environment in a new VM and trying to process all of these documents, and you have to go back and forth and do all that training and whatnot. With HIDP, it was a little bit faster, taking it from a month down maybe to a couple of weeks, but we then spent a lot of that time de-identifying these documents. What I've been doing is I'll have a customer send me a document or two, maybe a difficult document, and any particular document type. And then on the last call with this document, I believe, they sent me this live document. I went through, I pulled up, paint, redacted the information we didn't want to see. And then I captured it directly into here, and it was able to automatically classify this as an appeal denial letter, and it was able to grab our patient name and our patient ID. And the customer really liked that. It's been way more effective than any of the previous custom demos, because even though we're looking at their documents, there's still some customers who are really skeptical when it comes to that. How much of those 2 weeks did you spend de-identifying the document versus training the system to specifically recognize this particular document and extract these things at 100% here. So it's been very effective to show this. And then a couple of the other things that we would show as well would be on something like these overpayment requests, allowing them to create field suggestions. So that same customer asked, when I had this pulled up, they said, can we extract the original allowed amount? And so we went through and we built that, and I just put in the field name, and the system was able to go out and grab that from this document. So being able to show how flexible and how easy it is to administer the system, and then especially compared to Brainware, giving them the ability to administer the system if it's a hosted system, has been really driving these conversations forward. From here, then we do go into the Figma that's built to show what that end user interface is. A lot of what we're driving our customers to do in IBC is to do the separation and classification and extraction correction in CIC and not back in OnBase, even though these documents are more than likely going to OnBase at this point in time, using the connector that Tim showed very early on in the demo fest today. But being able to go through here and show them some features, a more streamlined interface for the end users, and some of the extraction features that are built in here, I have been really, again, been things that the customers have been looking for. So on this screen, we talk about being able to highlight on the document where we think a suggestion may be needing, maybe for the missing information over here. We'll go ahead and we'll extract that. This is just a click-through demo, so you have to know where to click. But once we've done that, then we can go ahead and look up and get a patient match if we needed to. Go ahead and match that patient up. But this next screen shows that document, and this is a multi-patient document, and this has been really a sticking point for all of these IBC solutions, where you get a document like this, has multiple patients on there, and the solution in the past and the manual solution in OnBase is to create 4 copies of this document manually and then go through and manually redact those. And what we have available in the beta program, or will be available in the beta program for those customers, will be the ability to come in here. And once you have that document, it's recognized that there's 4 patients on here, so it's automatically created 4 copies of that document. And then it's going to be their responsibility to come in here and highlight then the pieces of information that they are that they want to eliminate or that they want to keep. So in this case, we want to keep the header and the footer of this document, but we want to get rid of the information here for Auburn, Tom, and Mary. So we can go ahead, draw a box around that and click keep or remove. In this case, we'll hit remove, and then we will get an idea of what that would look like. So it's going to automatically then reassemble that document, only showing me that patient's information up here. So I don't have to, again, draw that redaction box and then do it for every document and then save it. It's a lot more cumbersome to do this with annotations in OnBase, as our customers would attest to. In the future, having this happen automatically is planned to be a part of that solution. I have not seen that version live, but I have seen this from the product demo standpoint. And this has really been another thing that the customers really enjoy seeing, really gets them interested in signing up for the beta. At this point in time, the biggest hurdle that we have is, in order to sign up for the beta, the customer has to be on a 24.1 or higher. And a lot of the customers that are interested are not on 24.1 or higher. In fact, we had a customer who was very interested, and they're still on 18. So there's still a little bit of work to do in that area, but this is typically what we show. We'll go through and we'll show the rest of these copies. And then some of the other things that we like to highlight are the ability to adjust quality review, QA review on the fly. So you can adjust these by user groups. So if you've got a group of users who are new employees, you want to make sure they're new to the department. We want to audit 80% or 100% of what they're doing. You can turn that on for that user group. You can turn that on for particular document types. So if you know your overpayments, there are always issues. We want to make sure we QA those. You can turn that on for those, or you can do it based on captured location. So if you know you've got a scanner that is just not doing a good job, so you want to make sure that these are audited to make sure that things are being extracted correctly, you can do that. Or if you've got a connection to an incoming fax or electronic fax provider, and you know that an office down the road that's always faxing you information is using a fax machine that they purchased in the 1980s, and it's just not coming in well, you can turn that on for that. And then we also then touch on reporting dashboards as well. But in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and I'll wrap this up, and we can turn it back over. That's typically what we would show for our beta customers, although we spend a lot more time talking about it than we did just now.
Which is understandable, but definitely like the solution that you guys are in the process of putting together, Sam. And forgive me if I missed this. When do you think that you'll have a generally available product to start, physically having in customers' hands and selling?
So the solution that I had in the click-through should be available for us to have in our demo environments on the 20th of next month. And then they'll be working on the release. The current release is scheduled for end of August, early September, where we'll have the GA release that should be available to everybody. So we're working hand in hand with product to get as much up-to-date solutions as we can to present to the customer. So this is our current demo for at least the next 22 days, and then from there it should be a lot more functional from a live software standpoint, and we'll be missing some of those things like automatic highlighting and redacting and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good to hear, and it's right around that aligns right with Community Live. So big splash. You guys, hopefully make a big splash once you get there. So good to hear.
That was the goal.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we're a little short on time, but if everyone can hang till probably the top of the hour, we have one more team to get into here, and it looks like let me pull up my agenda. Should be the channel team, and I believe we have Chris Corey and Brandon Shade. They're going to walk through IDP Automate and some knowledge discovery. So, Chris and Brandon, we'll give you till 12 o'clock here. If you get done sooner, that'd be great. But gentlemen, have at it.
Cool. Appreciate that, Larry. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. If everyone can just let me know when you can see it, I'd greatly appreciate that.
You are good, my friend.
Awesome. So today I'm going to be speaking to a stormwater inspection process. This can be kind of, genericized to just inspection management in general. And this is coming out of a direct opportunity that I had here where I actually presented this solution to a customer that is a county in Virginia last week. So their kind of needs dictated some of the things I'm going to be showing here today, and I think some of it should provide some residual value to the team and maybe be something that you can reference for any of your other demonstration build-outs. So some of the pain points that they brought to us were the ability to provide, first off, a front-end portal to their constituency to come into to actually interact with the county employees to manage their stormwater inspection process. So portal access is a big one. They're also evaluating Jadu, right? So there's a few fun ways that we're kind of handling that level of access here that we'll talk through. They also were having issues with the way in which they were managing data that resided within their cartograph database. So they were doing nightly batch pushes of data updates to that database, and the timing delays there were causing them day-to-day issues where they were referencing data that was meaningfully out of date. So we're going to address that as well. And then also they were using Versaforms as their primary form tool. And the form that they had was really janky, if I'm being honest. It was not very usable. It was a struggle for me to even figure out how to get through it in the first place, much less to expect, your typical resident of a city or county to be able to go in and interact with it. So we're going to be touching on all those things, and we're going to kind of round out the scenario with the additional IDP and knowledge discovery pieces that we were talking about here as well. So to get things started, I want to first take a look at probably the most complex process you've seen so far today, where you'll see that we just have a start and end point here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm using this as a means of exposing an anonymous form. So for anyone that hasn't run across a need yet to expose an anonymous form, the way that you do that, you use this no login required here at your process start, and then to actually find your URL that you're going to use, you can go out to your application list here in admin, take a look at your corresponding project, and take a look at your public process URLs. So this is where you'll get access to your anonymous forms. Going ahead and clicking on that and kind of providing some justification why I just showed you a process that only had a start and end event. This is a new user sign-up form, right? Pretty basic to start off with. We're just capturing full name as well as email address here. In a real world scenario, because we don't have kind of self-service options from within the kind of primary login screen when we're dealing with an external user scenario, this would need to route back in through the API to create a new user. Now, since this is going to be in a consolidated demo environment, we obviously don't want to be bloating that environment with new users every single time someone runs the demonstration. So that's kind of the high level ideas to what we're doing here. This does present users with an additional kind of captcha that you get to go through here. The pressure of having to do this live on a demo in front of someone is always fun, and I'll probably miss one here. We'll say that I did that correctly and that this was submitted correctly. Once that form is submitted, you can obviously route that through any additional review processes, things like that. If you're dealing with a super large external audience, like what a county would likely be encountering, probably doesn't make sense for every single user to be evaluated prior to being provided access. And you'd probably put some additional kind of automation steps in place there. Now, before we get into the rest of the actual kind of submitter interaction and what they're going to be going through to actually provide their inspection details, I want to take a quick look at how we can kind of address that interaction with the third-party database or storing data within the Automate repository directly for subsequent interaction. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go out here to my task list. I'm going to start a process, and we're going to say create facility. So here we have another form to capture some additional data. I'm going to create a new instance. And I will quickly apply some values here. All right. Once we go out and fill out this entire form, we're going to go ahead and hit start process. And what that's going to do is it's going to place a file out here, or what looks like a file, within this folder that I have listed as autofill keyword set facility. So anyone that's used to demoing OnBase should be pretty aware of, kind of the normal convention that we use for autofill keyword sets. And you're going to see here a large list of documents with some kind of nonsensical naming conventions, right? Within this list, if we take a look at our most recently created one that we've got here, if I go into the info, you're going to see down here in other properties, we have all of that information being stored. But there is no actual document backing this. We have it listed as a file so that we can interact with it via the repository, go out, find it, look at its properties, things like that. But we're not actually storing any content or a document alongside it. And the way that we're going to kind of use this is in the next step with the next form that we're going to be presenting to the actual submitter. But what this outlines is kind of twofold, right? This is the ability for us to present a form directly inside of Automate for data set creation and storage, either inside of the Automate repository directly or within a third-party database. And there's going to be some other fun ways that we're going to interact with that here in just a moment as well. So for the actual submitter process, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hit start process, and we're going to go to inspection submission. From here, we're going to supply this with some additional information, and this is where we are going to make use of that data set that we just created. So if I go ahead and select an existing instance of a facility ID, this is going to route out via the API to bring back in this information based on a lookup that's being performed via query language against the facility ID. So you're going to see all of that information being populated down here further below within the screen. Like I said, this could be in the customer scenario, direct lookup against their cartograph database in real time, right? It doesn't have to be data that's stored here. Additionally, we have a couple other tabs to collect some additional information, some basic visibility checks in the event that the data that we're pulling back as it relates to the owners or agents tied to the corresponding facility, needs updated. And then if you want to dox yourself, you can sign up for their FOIA checkbox here to make your information available to the public. We also have some inspection photo uploads, right? So we're going to come out and we're going to attach some images that they're requiring for their inspection of the actual stormwater functions here. Once we're done with that, I do have both of these attachment controls configured slightly differently. One that's allowing multiple upload, one that isn't, primarily as a talking point to speak to the fact that, we can do or allow multiple uploads, stuff like that. So once we have all of this buttoned up, we're going to go ahead and hit submit. That's going to have us kind of changing hats where we're going to be routing to the internal user review step where a county employee would actually be reviewing the subsequent form. So the next inspection form that we see, again, is going to be intended for the internal employee's review. We're generating a consolidated document PDF out of the information that we gathered via the first form so that we can meaningfully collapse this view into one consolidated working view where they have access to all of the information that they need to kind of sign off on this. We also do have a maintenance comment section over here on the right-hand side, where we can allow them to provide additional information that will ultimately be contained within the body of the subsequent email that we send out to the submitter if we determine that maintenance is in fact required, which we are going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this requires maintenance. Now, this is largely the end of where I kind of stopped this process flow. There's obviously another iteration of effectively the same thing that you saw at the beginning, where the submitter needs to come back, get updated information, attach additional documents and images, and resubmit them where it'll route back through effectively the same kind of review and approval process. But another thing that the customer in question wanted was the ability to perform different types of notifications, evaluate deadlines, those sorts of things. So to take a look at that, we're going to go into our process instance here. We'll take a look at the stormwater process, and we will go into our running inspection submission and take a look at that diagram. So here you'll see we have a very basic example set up for an initial email, placing to the next step where we're expecting user interaction and a boundary timer event. So this boundary timer event is going to say after X periods of time, if this process hasn't been successfully completed, we're going to send out our little nastygram here, tell them that they need to, actually submit this information to us and route us back through. This obviously doesn't represent a full end-to-end what you would expect the entirety of this kind of process to look like, but it was a very good and simple way to kind of get the point across as to what the tool can do. And then from there, you can kind of build on that and build out any more kind of specific timelines and notification processes that you need to from there. Okay. But to take a quick look as to what we were doing inside of that form that enabled me to expand that data set information, this is the process that the form is ultimately executing at the time where it notices a change within the facility ID. This is the REST call that we were using, and this is a subsequent script task. Now, this script task, while it does have technically a script assigned to it, it's all green text. The script does nothing. Ultimately, what we're doing is we're returning a JSON from the REST request itself, and this is strictly here for the purpose of giving us the ability to use the input and output mappings to interrogate the JSON, pull the values out of the individual lines of the JSON, and apply them to our subsequent process variables to be used and actually placed within the form itself. Okay. Want to say big shout out to Justin Carlson. Definitely appreciate his assistance here. He provided a whole bunch of assistance with getting this process kind of set up and running. And I believe he is planning on doing a deeper dive video presentation around how to make all of that work and where all of the individual attribute values reside that tie everything kind of together. So I do want to give Brandon time to get through his IDP portion here. This customer in particular, they already had kiosks and things like that set up inside of their front lobby, effectively tablets, right? So this same type of process could ultimately be exposed to folks that have a need to come in to do it. Most counties or local governments will have a direct need to support some level of in-person submission of any sort of interaction that they require for folks that maybe don't have access to a cell phone or a computer or things like that. So to further support that conversation, what we're going to be showing here is effectively the same generated form that you saw me create. In a real world scenario, this would likely be handwritten. And the idea is that for any government facility that does not have that type of kiosk set up, they may still have a requirement to allow paper form submission to be handed to a person sitting at a desk. So at the end of the day, this entire IDP process that we're going to show can ultimately directly back into that same process initiation point that you saw us perform previously with subsequent inclusive photos and things like that to support the submission. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Brandon, it's all you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. And I'll try to be quick just in the interest of time here. So again, yeah, what I'm going to be showing is just really that application being submitted and then ultimately run through IDP here. That way we can go ahead and extract some of that data, classify it correctly, and really kind of have that data available for those users to maybe view or any other business processes at that later time. I just have a really basic form that is set up to really bring in potentially one of those applications. Obviously, in a real world setting, we'd probably have those documents kind of get pushed over, just like Tim was showing at the beginning part of the demo fest today. But right from there, we can see that after I went ahead and submitted that document, IDP really is starting off that process to first push over that file into that first queue, which is going to classify that document. And now, as part of my process, we can see that I have a task that was then just assigned to myself as that individual user. And as I open up my next screen, which would be to review the classification of those documents, just like Will was showing during his portion, we can see that, that document that was pushed into my process was able to be classified correctly as that stormwater inspection application. I didn't have any kind of issues, that were shown with the classification of this document as it was brought in. Again, just another nice feature that Will pointed out while we were demoing through his portion earlier. If I needed to reject it or possibly reclassify it, those are all options that are possible through our IDP tool here. But with this one, I'll go ahead and submit. And what's really next going to take place is really that file or that document is just simply just going to be pushed over to my individual extraction queue. I broke my extraction queue. That way I always have the ability to review all those individual fields, so that it's not just getting pushed off into maybe that subsequent repository for storage, or that data is getting pushed off to that other line of business, etc. I do want to actually, obviously show everyone here for the purpose of the demo. But, as soon as that process does go ahead and complete of that data extraction, what we should see here shortly is really that next task that is awaiting for that additional user to review of that data that was extracted. Once that user does have that opportunity, they'll be able to review that information. And then again, whether we're passing that data and file off to that repository for that final storage, that's one option. Or again, if there's any other types of business rules or workflows that this document would then maybe need to be a part of, we can certainly pass it through in that process. And again, I won't spend too much time on here because we've kind of covered this bit of the demo fest today, but as I'm tabbing really through all these different lines, and you can really see that IDP did a great job of really being able to capture all this information off this applicant form. That way, again, if we need to pass any of this individual data points to those individual processes, we can do just that. And as I submit, again, based on where I needed it to go via Automate, we can really push that data or document to that specific place. My bit was pretty short there. I will pass it right back over to Chris to wrap us up with knowledge discovery.
Yep. And Larry, I do understand we're sitting right at the top of the hour here. If you want, I don't think the knowledge discovery piece that I have is going to be anything earth shattering. I don't think it's going to, really change the conversation based on what everybody else has presented thus far. It's largely just a querying of the form data again via knowledge discovery, but I'm happy to take your lead there.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think everyone's probably seen that before and understands what that functionality looks like, but thank you for that. All right, 15 minutes over, but all things considered, not bad at all. First of all, thank you all for taking the time to attend, and for those that sat and built and collaborated and took the time to put these solutions together. This is exactly what myself and the other leaders are looking for, right? We're with our software. We need to start figuring some things out and making sure that we have some solid demos in our stable to show our prospects and customers, and this is a great step in the right direction for that. So definitely appreciate it. We will continue to perform these sessions. Look for new ideas, new solutions. We'll sync back up. Myself and the leaders will sync back up and figure out when the next session will be and what that needs to look like. So patiently, check your inbox over the course of the next couple of days, and we'll have some ideas coming out for you all. So with that being said, if there's no further questions or comments, I will let you all go. But, once again, thank you for the time today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the week. Take care, everyone.